A child wakes to an alarm. School, homework, maybe practice, maybe a screen. And at some point, an adult says the magic words, "Go play." It feels timeless, like childhood has always looked like this. But it hasn't. For almost the entire history of our species, a child's day looked nothing like that. No school, no homework, no separate world of childhood at all. Compulsory school is barely 150 years old. For the 200,000 years before it, children learned to be human in a completely different way. So what did ancient children actually do all day? For more than 95% of human history, we were hunter-gatherers. And in the societies that still live that way, anthropologists found something that startles modern parents. Young children get almost total freedom. No lessons, no schedule, barely any direct instruction at all. Soon after they can walk, children drift into what researchers call the multi-age playgroup, a roaming band of kids of every age, from toddlers to teenagers, running their own world. And what do? They play. But the play is not random. In 2017, the anthropologist Shana Levy and her colleagues reviewed decades of research across forager societies and found the same thing nearly everywhere. Children learn the skills of survival not by being taught, but by imitating. They're handed tiny, working versions of adult tools. Little bows, small digging sticks. They stalk insects the way adults stalk game. They mimic the dances, the arguments, the hunts. To an outsider, it looks like all they do is play. But that play is the curriculum. It isn't preparation for life, it is life, just at child size. Then, around 12,000 years ago, humans began to farm, and the life of a child changed completely. A farm runs on labor, and children are labor. The anthropologist David Lancy calls it the chore curriculum. Children learning by being handed an unbroken ladder of chores, each a little harder than the last. A 3-year-old shoos birds from the grain. A 5-year-old hauls water. A 7-year-old is already responsible for a younger sibling, feeding them, carrying them, keeping them alive. Because this is the other thing ancient children did all day. They raised each other. For most of history, mothers did not parent alone. The job was shared across the group, and much of it fell to the older children. Across countless societies, the person carrying the baby on their hip was not an adult. It was another child. By modern standards, that sounds like a childhood lost. But to them, it was something else. It was being needed. Which brings us to the strangest part. The childhood you picture as timeless, protected, playful, set apart from the adult world, may be one of the most recent inventions in human history. In 1960, the French historian Philippe Aries made a claim that still starts arguments. He argued that in medieval Europe, the very idea of childhood barely existed. Children weren't a separate kind of person in a separate world. Once they could survive on their own, they simply joined the adult one. Its work, its tools, its dangers. His specific claims are debated, but the larger pattern is hard to deny. For most of history, there was no wall between the world of children and the world of adults. Then, a few centuries ago, that changed. The Industrial Revolution pulled children into factories and mines. And then, in horror at what that looked like, societies pulled them back out. In barely a century, we built something new. We took children out of the fields and put them in classrooms. We gave them a protected, separate world of school and play and safety. The childhood you think of as natural is only about 150 years old. We call that pure progress. That we rescued childhood. And in many ways, we did. But look at the trade. The ancient child had no safety net, no guaranteed education, and far too much responsibility far too young. The modern child has all of those things, and almost none of the responsibility. We gave children a world of their own, but we may have quietly taken away their place in ours. The bored kid on the couch, told to go play, is missing the one thing nearly every ancient child had without noticing it: the feeling of being genuinely needed. So next time a child is told to go play, as if play were a small thing, remember what play once was. For almost every child who ever lived, play was not a break from the world. It was how they learned to walk into it. The hunt, the harvest, the baby on the hip, all rehearsed in miniature, in the dirt, with no adult directing the scene. Ancient children didn't spend their days getting ready for life. They were already living it. And maybe that's the part we forgot to keep.